You'd be surprised how fast a life can fall apart. Mine took about an hour. My name is Jake Sloan. I'm 52 years old and I live or lived in Chandler, Arizona. It was a Sunday afternoon in early spring when the text came through from Dad, dinner at 5. Just family. Casual. Nothing unusual. No emojis. Just enough words to make it sound like another one of his low-effort get-togethers. I parked outside the house I grew up in, the late sun turning the driveway gold. There weren't any smells of cooking, no sizzle of meat from the grill, no clinking of dishes. The house was dead quiet. I walked in. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. Then I saw them. My parents were sitting in the living room, side by side on the long beige couch like they were waiting for someone to deliver a verdict. My brother Kyle was leaning against the doorway, arms crossed. Dana, my sister, sat rigid in a dining chair, face unreadable. "Okay," I said, glancing around. "Where's the food?" Kyle didn't laugh. Dana looked down at her nails. Dad cleared his throat. "Sit down, Jake." I didn't move. "Is this an intervention or something?" Dana spoke first. "We know what you've been doing." "What does that mean?" "Kyle found discrepancies in the books," she said. "You've been taking money from Dad's business." My stomach dropped. "What?" Kyle stepped forward, holding a thin folder in his hand. "Bank transfers. Over a dozen. All to your personal account. You thought no one would notice?" I stared at him, stunned. "That's payroll. Bonuses. We talked about that, remember? You signed off on some of those." "No," Kyle said, his voice steady. "I didn't." My hands went cold. "You think I'm stealing from the family?" Dana folded her arms. "And what about Stephanie Miller?" That name hit me like a slap. Stephanie was a client. A married one. "What about her?" Dana's eyes narrowed. "Her husband found texts. And photos. You were sleeping with her. And before you deny it, she reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. You also hit on my fiancé." My heart stopped. "What the hell are you talking about?" "Don't lie," Kyle barked. "You've been crossing lines for years. It ends now." I turned to my dad. "You believe this?" He didn't blink. "You're no longer part of this family or the business. Pack your things and get out tonight." Silence fell like a hammer. "You're serious," I whispered. "You're actually doing this?" Mom looked away. Dad didn't flinch. Dana wouldn't meet my eyes. "And Kyle?" He looked almost pleased. "Where's this even coming from?" I asked, breath shaky. "I built half this company with you. I gave up my life for this." Dad stood. "You gave us shame, Jake. Now leave." And just like that, it was over. I walked to the hallway dazed, and that's when I saw it. A duffel bag sitting by the door. My duffel bag. Already packed. They'd done this before I even walked in. Everything was right there. Clothes, shaving kit, even my laptop. Like I'd already been tried and convicted in secret. I didn't say another word. I picked up the bag, walked out the front door, and got in my truck. By 6 o'clock, I had no home, no job, and no family to call. All I had was a duffel bag, a set of keys, and the sharp, hollow feeling that comes when people you love look you in the face and call you disposable. The motel smelled like bleach and burned coffee. I checked in at a place off Buckeye Road, the kind of spot you only stay in if you're hiding or broke. I was both. The guy at the front desk didn't ask questions. I paid cash, which left me with under $40 to my name. Room 112. Second floor, back corner. At least it had a lock. Inside, everything was damp with silence. The walls were yellowed and the air conditioning groaned like it was dying slow. I dumped my duffel on the floor and sat on the edge of the bed. Just sat there. Nothing moved. No calls, no texts. Not even a "where are you" from Mom. I was erased. My hands kept clenching into fists. Not from rage, exactly. More like my body didn't know what to do now that everything familiar was gone. I opened my laptop, tried to read through old client notes, maybe distract myself, but the words just floated. None of it mattered now. I had no clients. No desk. Nothing. That's when I remembered Ray. Ray, with her lopsided grin and sharp eyes that always saw through the noise. We'd been dating for 6 months, nothing fancy, no grand declarations, just something good and real. She wasn't dramatic, not even when she'd mentioned casually over lunch that her period was late. "I'm probably just stressed," she had said, laughing it off. I did buy a test, though. Just in case. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. But now, sitting in that busted-up motel room, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I grabbed my keys, ran downstairs, and popped open the glove box in my truck. There it was. Still in the Walgreens bag, unopened. I stood in the parking lot for a second, holding it like it was radioactive. Then I went back up, locked the door behind me, and stepped into the bathroom. The light buzzed overhead, cold, unforgiving. I read the instructions 3 times before actually opening it. Not that it was complicated. Just nerves. I took the test. Then I waited. 3 minutes. Longest 3 minutes of my life. When I looked, I had to blink twice. 2 pink lines. Not faint. Not subtle. Loud. Clear. Positive. The air left my lungs. I leaned against the sink and laughed, just once, the kind of laugh that doesn't have any humor in it, just shock. Twins. Ray had joked about it once. Watch it be twins. I feel like I'm carrying a brick and a bowling ball. Now here I was, alone in a $39 a night motel, looking at 2 pink lines that meant everything had changed. They took my job. My house. My family. But they didn't know what I was holding now. I wasn't just broke and exiled. I was about to be a father. And no one, not Kyle, not Dana, not even my father, knew what that meant yet. 2 days later, she showed up. No warning. No big speech. Just a knock on the motel door around noon. I thought it was housekeeping, or maybe the front desk guy coming to tell me I was overstaying my welcome. I opened it, and there she was. Ray stood there in a hoodie and jeans, a backpack slung over one shoulder. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot, and she looked like she hadn't slept much. She wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't even smiling. "You okay?" she asked. That was it. No, what the hell happened? No, why didn't you call? Just 2 words. You okay? I stepped aside and she walked in like she'd been there 100 times before. She dropped her bag beside the chip dresser, glanced at the unmade bed, the cheap lamp, the half-cracked window, and didn't flinch. She sat on the edge of the mattress, hands in her lap. "I wasn't sure you'd come," I said quietly. She looked up at me. I wasn't either. That made me smile for the first time in days. We didn't talk right away. I sat next to her, close but not touching. It felt like we were sitting at the edge of a cliff, both waiting to see who'd jump first. Eventually, I told her everything. About the dinner invitation. The silence when I arrived. The setup. How Kyle accused me of stealing from the business, how Dana twisted some lie about me and her fiancé. The bag by the door. The way Dad looked at me like I was just another bad investment. I told her about the motel. About waking up yesterday convinced it had all been some weird dream, only to remember, over and over, that it wasn't. I told her about the test in the glove box. 2 pink lines. Twins. She listened without interrupting. No gasps, no wide eyes, just steady focus. When I finished, I rubbed my face with both hands and leaned forward, elbows on my knees. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do now," I admitted. Ray reached for a napkin from the side table, one of those thin brown diner kinds. She borrowed my pen, uncapped it, and scribbled something slowly. She folded it in half, then slid it onto my knee. "Together." That's all it said. Just 1 word. I stared at it for a second, feeling something in my chest crack wide open. Not break, not this time, but open, like a door finally swinging after being jammed for years. "I'm in," I said. Fully. No backup plan. She nodded like she already knew that. Like she'd been waiting for me to say it out loud. We packed up the motel room that afternoon, not because we had a new place lined up, but because staying there meant staying stuck. We drove to a small diner Ray liked near South Mountain. The waitress knew her by name. She didn't ask any questions when Ray ordered us both meatloaf and lemon pie. Over mashed potatoes and watery coffee, Ray told me her aunt was friends with my mom. "I heard something a few weeks ago," she said. "About your family. About a plan to clean up the business." I didn't want to believe it. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd deny it," she said gently. "And because I didn't want to be right." I nodded slowly. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I just want something they can't take." She leaned across the table and placed her hand over mine. "Then let's build it." I started with a notebook and a library card. The downtown Phoenix library became my office. I'd show up when the doors opened, claim a corner table near the power outlet, and stay until my back ached. Ray would show up with sandwiches and cold drinks around noon. She never asked how it was going. She just sat beside me, scrolling her phone or reading quietly, like her presence was enough, and it was. I kept thinking about the research Kyle and I had brainstormed years ago, back when things were good, or at least decent. Hormone recovery treatments for men post-chemotherapy. Most of the work had been mine, but we'd always said it was a joint effort. Then, one day, he pitched it to Dad solo. Like it was his idea all along. I thought it was dead. But now that I had nothing left, I realized that research was still mine. He stole the story, not the science. I pulled it all back from old emails and notebooks. Ray helped me come up with a name, Sauline Bio. Saw for Saul, I told her, my grandfather. The only Sloan who ever saw me. And line, she asked. For drawing one, I said. Right here. We formed the LLC a week later. Arizona made it easy, $65 and a website that didn't crash. Ray typed it all up, then handed me the confirmation email like a birth certificate. You just made something, she said. I hope it walks, I said, trying to smile. The first investor came from a LinkedIn message I almost didn't answer. Some guy in Denver who'd worked in the same nonprofit cancer initiative I volunteered with 3 years back. He remembered me. Said he was now in early-stage investing and asked if I had anything to pitch. I borrowed a jacket from Ray's brother, combed my hair with my fingers, and pitched him from the library's conference room over Zoom. I thought I tanked it. I fumbled the intro, my slides froze twice, and I had to pause to chase a crying baby out of the hallway. But when I finished, he said, "You're raw. But you're real. I'll put in 25,000? I asked. He laughed. Unless you were hoping for $25. I hung up and just sat there, staring at the screen. Ray came in with 2 iced teas, and I held out the phone. We're funded. She blinked. Like, actually? Actually. She didn't jump or squeal. She just smiled wide and slow, then sat down next to me and took my hand. We didn't go out to celebrate. We went to Target. Picked up folders, storage bins, and a used whiteboard we found in the clearance aisle. We taped our name on the back of a mailbox rental in Tempe. Saline Bio, Suite 1104. A week later, I got a voicemail from my mom. I almost didn't listen to it. But Ray saw my face and just nodded. Play it. Mom's voice came through the speaker, cold and clipped. Jake, you made your choice. Stay gone. Dana's pregnant now. We don't need you. That was all. No, call me back. No, hope you're well. Just confirmation that whatever warmth was left in that house had finally frozen over. I deleted the voicemail, then turned to Ray. You regret any of this yet? I asked. She tilted her head. You mean, do I regret betting on the guy who just raised 25 grand with a whiteboard and a Wi-Fi signal? I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I felt taller. No job. No name. No backing. But I had a folder, a pitch, a partner, and now a company. I wasn't knocking on doors anymore. I was building one. I wore a suit that didn't quite fit. It had been tucked in the back of the motel closet for months. Slightly too snug in the shoulders and a little loose in the waist, but clean. Presentable. Ray ironed it the night before, quiet and focused like it was armor for battle. She tucked an ultrasound photo into the inside pocket when I wasn't looking. Something real, she said, patting my chest. Don't forget what you're fighting for. I drove to the tech hub in Scottsdale just after sunrise. Ray stayed home with the twins still kicking inside her. The building was sleek and cold, the kind of place with espresso machines in the lobby and motivational quotes etched into glass walls. I felt like a foreigner. I kept my head down and followed the signs for the pitch backroom. 7 of us were scheduled to present to a panel of angel investors. Only 4 of them would speak. The 5th just watched from the corner, tapping notes into a tablet, expression unreadable. I was last. The others went before me, apps, wearables, crypto nonsense dressed up in clean fonts and buzzwords. Lots of big promises and vague results. When it was finally my turn, I stood up, cleared my throat, and walked to the front. Hi, I began, I'm Jake Sloan. I'm building something for men like my grandfather, men who beat cancer and then get told to just tough it out when their bodies stop feeling like home. I showed my slides. Talked about testosterone suppression, post-chemo bone density loss, real science, real gaps. I showed our model. I showed the test results we'd run on synthetic cell lines. I didn't stutter. I didn't rush. I didn't beg. I ended with the ultrasound photo. I'm building a future for these 2, I said, voice steady. So when they ask me what I did with my second chance, I'll have an answer. Silence. Then a short, sarcastic laugh. It came from one of the older men on the panel, suit jacket unbuttoned, Rolex flashing under the lights. He leaned back in his chair and smirked. We've seen the single dad sob story before, he said. You think that gets you funding? I blinked. Excuse me. He shrugged. You want a grant or a handout, maybe try GoFundMe. This is venture capital. We don't invest in pity. No one spoke up. Not one of the other judges said a word. The guy next to him glanced at his notes and scribbled something without looking up. I packed up my slides without a word. Walked out slow. Pride intact, heart bruised, all to hell. Outside, I barely made it to the alley before I threw up. My hands were shaking. Cold sweat on my neck. That man's voice ringing in my ears. We've seen the sob story before. I leaned against the wall, head spinning, and that's when I heard her. A woman, probably another founder, walking past with her friend. Guys like him shouldn't reproduce, she muttered. I didn't even look up. I just stared at the gravel, ball still burning in my throat. In the bathroom of the parking garage, I rinsed my face and took out the ultrasound photo. My boys, two tiny bean-shaped figures floating in a storm of static. I pulled my wallet out. Behind an old receipt was a folded photo of Grandpa Saul. He used to say one thing whenever I messed up, whenever someone underestimated me. "They won't see it," he'd say, "but you've got it." That night, I got a message. It was from the silent judge. Just one line. "You stood taller than any of them. Let's talk next week." Maybe the world still couldn't see me. But someone did. I didn't expect a banner. Not like that. The Biotech Summit was the biggest thing I'd ever attended. Rows of booths, polished glass walls, endless lanyards, and blinking name badges. Saline Bio had a tiny table near the back, tucked between a vitamin startup and a guy selling gut biome kits. We didn't have much. Just a screen looping our product demo and a foam core poster Ray helped me design the night before while the twins gnawed on plastic teething rings. I wore a button-down Ray said made me look like someone with a future. And for the first hour everything was fine. A few folks stopped by. Some questions. A lot of polite nods. Nothing major. Then I saw it. Across the convention floor, near the main stage, stood a 10-foot banner. White background. Gold trim. A woman's smiling face front and center. Dana. My sister's face, professionally retouched and lit like a TED Talk poster. Underneath, in bold. Women powering the future of health. Below that? A quote. One I recognized instantly. Healing isn't about just surviving, it's about waking up in a body that still belongs to you. My quote. My words. From the thesis I wrote 10 years ago, the one Kyle said wasn't marketable enough. She hadn't just stolen a tagline. She'd lifted whole paragraphs, polished and shortened, sure, but undeniably mine. I walked over slowly, pretending to browse. A woman standing nearby handed me a pamphlet. "Isn't she amazing?" She gushed. "She's speaking at 3. I nodded like I agreed, then walked away before I did something stupid. Ray found me pacing behind our booth. "You okay?" she asked, eyeing me carefully. "They're here," I said. "Dana." Or at least her face. She followed me back to the banner. When she saw it, her eyes narrowed. "She's not even attending. That's a printed panel, not a live speaker schedule." I pointed to the quote. "She didn't have to ask." "You wrote that," she said. "In the cancer recovery paper." "I know." A few hours later, someone from the panel committee came by. "Jake Sloan?" he asked. "We had a speaker drop out last minute. We saw your demo and wondered if you'd like to join the 4 o'clock panel on emerging biotech." I stared at him. "Me? You've got 10 minutes to prep." I almost said no. I wasn't polished. I didn't have a fancy deck or a stage presence. I didn't have a marketing team. But I had something they didn't. Receipts. I walked up to the panel table an hour later. The room wasn't packed, but it was full enough. Phones up. Reporters. A few of Dana's friends, I recognized them from old holiday photos. Their eyes went wide when they saw me walk on stage. I introduced myself. Explained Saline Bio. Ran through the work we'd done. I didn't mention Dana, not at first. But when I reached the last slide, I paused. "I'd like to end with a quote," I said. "Some of you may recognize it." I clicked. The screen filled with the same words from Dana's banner. Then I clicked again, and there it was, an email dated 6 years ago, sent from my old college address to Kyle, subject line, final draft attached, cancer recovery thesis quotes. Timestamped. Original file name still visible. "This quote is mine," I said. "So are the others currently printed across a display on the main floor." I wasn't invited to speak. I wasn't even listed. But I'm here now. Not with a name. With work. No applause. Just silence. And then phones came up. Someone in the front row was already recording. I saw the red light on her camera. She mouthed something to her friend. The real Sloan. Afterward, no one from the committee tried to stop me. A few nodded. One shook my hand. Ray was waiting by the booth. Phone buzzing with alerts. The clip went viral in less than a day. Someone tagged Dana. By then, I was already on my way home. Not back to the family who erased me, but to the one I'd built from scratch. I found the windshield note before sunrise. I'd gone out to warm up the truck, coffee in one hand, laptop bag in the other, thinking about a meeting I had with a potential partner from Austin. But the moment I saw the words scrawled across the glass, my stomach dropped. Traitor. Waste. Shame to the name. Red spray paint. Big crooked letters. Right across the windshield. Like they wanted it to bleed. There was an envelope tucked under the wiper. Inside, a formal letterhead, Dana Sloan. attorney at law, cease and desist. She was threatening legal action for slander, libel, and defamation of character, following my appearance at the biotech summit. I didn't even blink. I went back inside, poured out my coffee, and grabbed a thicker folder, one I'd been building quietly for years. Timestamps, research drafts, shared documents with original edit history, side-by-sides of her public posts next to my unpublished work. But the best part? A string of audio recordings. See, back when I still had a foot in the family business, I used to record meetings. For clarity. For notes. For just in case. One of those recordings? Dana and Mom. Dana. He's not going to roll over. He still thinks he has a stake. Mom. Then we take it from him. Make him look unstable. Kyle can find something. Dana. Dad just needs the right push. He'll do it if we all agree. Clear as day. I sent everything to my attorney with a single text. Let her swing first. 2 weeks later, we filed a counterclaim, intellectual property theft, fraud, and business defamation. We requested an injunction barring Dana from using any slogans, brand language, or visual materials derived from my research. We also asked for a full audit of the Sloan family business, including records Kyle had managed. The court date was set faster than expected. Apparently, our evidence package wasn't subtle. Dana showed up with a legal team, full suit and blowout, talking fast and confident. She tried to keep it professional, polished, unbothered. But I saw it, that twitch in her jaw when our lawyer played the audio. The judge asked her plainly, "Is this your voice?" She hesitated. "Yes. And were you aware your brother was the author of the research in question?" Another pause. "I was aware he had contributed. That was it." Our lawyer didn't even have to press. The judge ruled in our favor for the injunction. Dana was officially barred from using anything tied to my name, likeness, or intellectual property in any capacity tied to Sloan Health or her new ventures. The court didn't even blink. But that wasn't the win. The win came when the judge looked at Dana and said, "This is not just a legal issue, it's a personal one. You orchestrated the removal of a family member under false pretenses and benefited from his exclusion." Dana's face cracked for half a second. Then it reset. I didn't gloat, didn't smirk. I just sat still, watching her sink one layer at a time. Outside the courthouse, reporters hovered. I ignored them, let my lawyer make the statements. "You going to post about it?" Ray asked later that night, curled beside me while the twins kicked under her sweatshirt. "No," I said. "I already said what I needed to in court." I pulled the ultrasound photo from the bookshelf and tucked it behind a framed photo of Grandpa Saul. That folder I used in court? I didn't lock it away. I left it on my desk, right where I could see it. Not as a weapon, as proof that they tried to erase me, and I came back swinging. Dana was late. Courtroom B wasn't big, but the silence made it feel cavernous. The final hearing was mostly procedural, formalizing the injunction, closing out the fraud claims, but Ray came with me anyway, wearing her quiet armor of jeans and a hoodie that read, "Built Not Bought." The twins were with her cousin. I wore the same suit from the summit. Still didn't fit perfectly, but now it felt like mine. At 9:12, Dana walked in. Alone. Hair pinned tight, heels clicking too loud. Not a smudge on her. She scanned the room like she expected someone to wave her over. No one did. Our parents sat on opposite benches. Mom was flipping through a magazine like none of it concerned her. Dad stared straight ahead, not even glancing when Dana passed. There wasn't a single Sloan on her side of the courtroom. She sat alone. No lawyer, no clipboard, just a sharp purse and a face set like concrete. The judge moved through the docket fast. Our side confirmed compliance. Her side had nothing left to dispute. Then came the final line. All materials derived from the plaintiff's original research are barred from commercial use effective immediately. Financial gain from said materials must cease. This court considers the matter closed. The gavel tapped once. Sharp. Final. No cheers. No gasps. Just the sound of Dana zipping up her purse. She didn't look at me as she stood. She didn't stop to talk to Mom or Dad. She walked out without breaking stride. But no one followed her. That was the part that stuck. Not the legal victory. Not the headlines that trickled in later. Not even the check my lawyer handed me from a settlement fund. It was that moment, standing there watching Dana, so used to being the center of everything, slip through the doors with no one behind her. After the hearing, a reporter outside asked if I had anything to say to my family. I didn't blink. I already did, I said. In court. Ray and I drove back home in silence. Not the awkward kind, not the heavy kind, just quiet. The kind where two people don't need to fill the air anymore. When we pulled into the driveway, the twins were napping in their car seats. Want to go out to eat? Ray asked softly. Celebrate. I looked at the boys. Leo's little hand was curled into a fist. Lyle had spit up on his onesie. Nah, I said. Let's go home. The lab was quiet when we got there. Ray set the twins down in their bassinets in the corner, next to the workbench. They slept beside old research binders and whiteboards stained with dry erase ghost trails. I sat down, flipped open my laptop, and got back to work. There was no trophy, no confetti, just a silent room, a half-drunk cup of coffee, and two boys breathing soft beside a glowing incubator. That was the celebration, not revenge. Results. The dirt was stubborn, full of little rocks and dry clumps that fought the shovel with every press. But I kept digging. Ray sat nearby with the boys in a playpen, shielding them from the afternoon sun under a ratty old beach umbrella. Leo was chewing on a rubber giraffe. Lyle was asleep with his fist in his mouth. Our backyard in Mesa wasn't much, but it was ours. Fenced, a little patchy, nothing fancy. Perfect. I dropped the last of the lemon tree into the hole and packed the soil around it. Next to it stood the orange tree. 2 trees. For 2 boys. Lemon for Lyle. Orange for Leo. Something real. Something that would outlast me. Ray sipped from her water bottle. You're gonna make us into a whole orchard. That's the idea, I said. Leave something they can climb when they're older. She smiled, then reached into the diaper bag and pulled out a plain brown package. No return address. This came earlier. No idea who it's from. I dusted off my hands, sat down on the back step, and opened it. Inside was a photo, an old one. It was from a 4th of July cookout when I was maybe 9. I was holding a sparkler, smiling wide, missing 2 front teeth. I remembered the photo, or thought I did. But the one I knew had always been cropped. The original had me standing between Dad and Dana. This one, full frame, me front and center. I turned it over. On the back, written in small blocky handwriting. This is the version that matters. It was signed Camden. I hadn't heard from my cousin in years. He must have found it in one of Grandma's old photo albums. He'd always been quiet, the type to notice things nobody else did. I stared at that photo for a long time. There I was, young, barefoot, unfiltered, unedited. Ray leaned over my shoulder. She saw you, she whispered. At least one person did. I nodded slowly, throat tight. Yeah. That night, we sat under the pergola. Ray and I built ourselves from clearance lumber and Craigslist advice. The boys were finally asleep, the monitor propped on the patio table between us. Cicadas buzzed. Somewhere down the street, someone was grilling. I looked out at the citrus trees. Still young, still crooked, but they were planted, growing. You ever think about changing your name? Ray asked suddenly. I looked at her. You mean dropping Sloan? She shrugged. After everything they did, I wouldn't blame you. I thought about it. Then I shook my head. No, I said. I don't want to erase it. I want to outgrow it. She smiled, soft and proud. Good. We sat in silence for a while longer. Not heavy, not haunted, just still. I didn't say I'm healed. I didn't feel fixed or finished. But I felt rooted. In this yard. With these people. These trees. And for the first time in years, I wasn't looking backward or waiting to be let in. I was home. I exhaled, slow and full. I'm right where I was meant to be.